Man, one thing about America, right, is people got to realize that once America get involved in something, and once you begin to disturb whatever type of mechanism that they want to have going on and they want to create it, one thing for sure, once they get involved, they won't stop coming. And so while people is out there generally doing all this riding and stuff like that, thinking that it's gonna make a big difference, all you really doing is adding fuel to the fire. So much so that I want to show you what's going on in the background. Forget this. We know they've been, having these anti-ICE arrests. Really don't want to see individuals lead this country. And sometimes you just gotta bow down and respect the fact that, hell, I don't even want to say it. I'm just gonna show you how serious people are with regards to getting the immigrants out of here. And it's no fault by me, right? I'm just going from what 80% of America feels. And so this is just my reaction to what's going on in the background while individuals want to be in the streets doing all this.
They do interesting stuff there. It's mostly about politics around, I guess I'd call it whiteness, and the inevitable conflict between the white first world and the non-white third world. The Remigration Act of 2025. Remigration is the most necessary policy of the modern era. Without it, there will be no future America. Our team has created.
Did he say remigration? The Remigration Act. Check it out. This is what's going on in the background while people is rioting. This is a proposal that's being pushed while people is out here rioting in the street, trying to defend something that is illegal in the first place, that is against the law. Hey, I can't call it. All I could do is be a reaction to it. And just to fill y'all in on what's going on in the background, because people seem to not understand what Black America has learned primarily is these people, they not going to stop coming. The more you do, the more you react to the situation, the worse it's going to get.
A draft bill that we feel touches on many of the necessary reforms to enable remigration. The draft legislation creates many of the necessary programs to enable both mandatory remigration for criminals, frauds, welfare dependents, and voluntary remigration for the tens of millions of people that polling in recent years have consistently shown would leave the United States if they had the resources to leave. This draft legislation provides those resources to those populations. While there is certainly no room in this country for those immigrants and their descendants who lied, cheated, dissembled, and the core of this bill is about choice. Our remigration programs offer the unhappy and poorly integrated elements of the post 1965 immigrant and African American populations.
Man, did he say African Americans? So we got to remigrate now too? How do we become a part of this?
They write. Many readers will go into this with skepticism. Remigration could never happen because many believe it lacks public support, that the American people are not aware of just how bad things are, or that there's no will among the remigration eligible population to actually leave the country. These are reasonable skepticisms given what we are presented with on a daily basis by the mass media, but the truth is that Americans are deeply skeptical of diversity and demographic change.
Man, how many are you Africans ready to go back to Africa? How many of you African Americans is ready to go back to Africa? Man.
And many of the recent immigrant groups and their descendants want to leave this country. Americans have become unhappy living in a country defined by liberal multiculturalism and demographic change, Between September of 2019 and September of 2024, the number of Americans who view diversity as a threat to American culture more than tripled from 11% to 33%. Of course, that should be 100%, obviously. So we still have a ways to go, but at least people's eyes are being opened. They continue. This figure rises to 35% among whites and 43% among non-college educated whites. Another poll conducted by Gallup in July of 2024 shows that 55% of Americans want all immigration, including legal immigration, to decrease substantially. Furthermore, an Ipsos poll released one day before Trump's 2025 inauguration found that 66% of Americans support deporting all people who are in the country illegally. Only 66%. Well, it's in the nature of American politics that you never get everybody. There's always 20, 30% outliers. Then there are other polls that repeatedly confirm that some immigrants and many millions of their post-1965 descendants want to leave the United States. This even extends to the nation's oldest minority group, African Americans.
The nation's oldest minority group, African Americans. Why we got to be involved in this? How we get it? How does become a piece of our fight to where now y'all talking about remigrating African Americans? I thought we ended this with the Civil War when y'all wanted us to go back to Africa then, but y'all realized that hell, they don't even know where they come from. What part of Africa are they gonna go back to?
According to the 2024 polling published by Monmouth University, 45% of people of color, or about 72 million people, want to depart the United States, while other polling shows that 30% of foreign-born Asians and 26% of all Asians in the United States would like to relocate to their ancestral homelands. This represents about roughly 6.5 million people. Finally, there is the February 2025 poll conducted by Harris Polling, showing that 40% of Americans have considered moving abroad. This poll showed that strong majorities of Hispanic Americans, 61%, and African Americans, 57%, have considered moving abroad. In individual terms, these figures represent roughly 67 million.
I don't know who took that poll because I damn sure ain't trying to go back. Well, shoot, I ain't from Africa, mom. So I damn sure ain't trying to go to Africa. So whoever took that poll, I want to know who took this poll because they didn't ask the right
people who desire to leave the U.S. Remigration is a wildly popular policy idea among tens of millions of Americans, even if they are not fully aware of that yet. We can have a constructive national conversation about remigration, and the ultimate endpoint is enacting it into law. Our Remigration Act presents an example of what such a law might look like. So this is something they've drafted up. Now, the legislative language here, they call it H.R. 1965. It reads, a bill to amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to establish procedures for the review and revocation of certain naturalizations, that would be denaturalizing paperwork citizens, to provide for the denaturalization of individuals under specified circumstances, to clarify the citizenship status of certain children, to facilitate the voluntary departure of denaturalized individuals, to create voluntary programs for the remigration and self-determination of post-1965 immigrant communities and the African American community, respectively, to enable them to live in the society of their choosing. You see how this is all being framed in a very positive, not a negative light? We're not throwing you out into the third world garbage bin. We're giving you an opportunity to live your best life. Be it enacted by the Senate and the House. Section 1, short title, Remigration Act of 2025. I guess they've relabeled it 2026 now for obvious reasons. A review of naturalizations issued since 1965. The Secretary of Homeland Security, acting through the Director of United States Citizenship and Immigration, shall conduct a comprehensive review of all certificates of naturalization issued to currently living persons on or after December 1st, 1965, to determine eligibility for revocation. The review of each of these people shall include.
You see, I always felt like the Immigration Act of 1965 was just bad for the country, period. First of all, right when black people had won their civil rights, here you are. I felt like it was a retaliation against Black America. It's for you to want to change the demographics of this country when we just got our civil rights. I feel like it was just retaliation. Why when we just get the right to have, equality in this country just based on the merits of what we had going on before, just all the hard work that we was putting into. Here you are, you want to change the demographics to the perspective that it was read to stop the white superiorities or as the white supremacy. That's, stop the European migration of from the perspective of only primarily allowing the European immigrants to become citizens in this country. However, from statistics, here we are with the whole problem that Europeans didn't want to migrate to this country as much as these individuals believed. And primarily what you saw with regards to the Immigration Act of 1965, you saw a lot of Asians. And it began somewhere, I think in the 70s, you saw, after the Asians, you saw a lot of Hispanic communities. But still, with that, I want to know how the hell African Americans be a part of this.
Verification of all information provided in applications for naturalization, visas, or other immigration benefits, including but not limited to criminal history, public charge status, that's whether or not they're on welfare, compliance with all applicable requirements. Again, I think they virtually all of them commit some.
See, now you see how they attacking welfare. You know what I'm saying? When we was basing our whole status in this country in terms of, I want to say how African Americans from that standpoint off merit, you didn't want to give us the right to have the equal protection for the merit that we was pursuing in this country, and then we you offer us welfare, and we get on that for the social assistance that we didn't need really, but that we took a scheme that allowed the Democratic Party to get a whole lot of black people to follow behind them. Because one of the Democratic schemes with regards to their politics and rhetoric and all that is, we can do better for them. And the way that they decided to do better for the black people was to allow them to be more a part of the social welfare scheme. And now look where this getting to us. Look how they're attacking us now.
Level of fraud here. Not later than 1 year after the date of this bill, and thereafter every year, the Committee on the Judiciary, the Secretary shall submit to the Senate and the House a report on the progress of review, including the number of naturalizations reviewed, the number revoked, and any request for expanded resources. The relevant Immigration and Nationality Act section shall be amended by inserting after procurement by concealment of a material fact or willful misrepresentation, or for shall be added the following, or for any of the additional grounds in subsection J. What is subsection J? In addition to any other grounds under this section, naturalization shall be revoked if the Attorney General or Customs and Immigration finds by a preponderance of the evidence, 51%, the naturalization was procured by fraud, including but not limited to false statements or omissions on any visa, naturalization application, or related paperwork. So the whole chain of events, right? First, they got a visa, maybe a student visa, maybe an H1 visa, H1B visa. They lied on that. And then they go from the visa to the green card. They lied on that. And then they go from the green card to the naturalization process. They lied on that as well. Any fraud anywhere along that chain, denaturalized, stripped of citizenship, sent home.
They already trying to do that, so that don't need to be a part of the act. because Trump is already on top of that. They looking over a whole lot of people's paperwork. So, you know, you can wipe that out.
Also, the individual committed any criminal offense prior to naturalization that would have rendered the individual ineligible for naturalization. So, of course, if they have a criminal history and they want a visa or green card or to become a citizen, they lie about that. They don't proffer up their prior criminal.
Sound like the Trust Act in California, which is a part of the uh, California Values Act, which in terms really speak with regards to the sanctuary state policies of California, which California was the first sanctuary state in the United States. It seems like instead of California, really, when you look at it, like I'm gonna say how Trump would say, when you look at it, it's really about harboring criminals, allowing individuals from other countries who got criminalized or and became a part of the penal system in another country. Here we are in this country. If they would have been vetted properly in terms of what he's saying, they shouldn't have been over here in the first place. But instead, here we are. You got California and all these other sanctuary states harboring these individuals in here, and I never got that because as a citizen, here I am with the heightened responsibility. If I had a conviction for anything, to be on parole, to be on probation, and if I was to do anything, I mean anything, just having contact with the police, I'll be back in jail. I'll be back in prison. You be trying to put handcuffs on me. But yet and still, these individuals can come over here, you know what I'm saying, and not have the same responsibility, absolutely have protection, and not have the heightened responsibility that it would take for them to abide by the laws of this country and not get deported. It seems kind of awkward. It seems like there's not really fairness in the system when it comes with regards to your own citizenry and the protection of immigrants.
Offense, another form of fraud. The individual has committed any violent criminal offense after naturalization. Yes, if you're a naturalized citizen, it's not the same thing as being a true full citizen. You're still a citizen as a guest of the United States. If you come here and we make you a citizen and you start committing crimes, you get to go home. That the individual made any false statement or omission on any prior visa or naturalization application or related paperwork. Already talked about that. The individual became a naturalized citizen while being a public charge, being on welfare, including receipt of any form of public assistance or welfare, unless the individual was married to a U.S. citizen at the time of naturalization, and such marriage was not entered into for the purpose of evading immigration laws. Denaturalization of certain children of immigrants. These would be the anchor.
It's crazy how far this is really going, ain't it? I mean, it is crazy how far this is particularly going with regards to this issue. And it's to the point to where it's feel like it's almost sad. You know what I'm saying? But this is what really going on in the background, what people is trying to conjure up in the background to what they feel like they need to do to get their country back. So pay attention.
Babies who, because they've been born on American soil, but not to U.S. citizens, have been improperly treated as birthright citizenships. So, denaturalization of certain children, any individual under 18 years of age who was born in the United States to parents who were lawful permanent residents or naturalized citizens at the time of birth are subject to having their citizenship revoked if any of these criteria are hit. So they were born on U.S. soil to naturalized citizens or permanent resident aliens, green card holders. Under current American law, even my reading of the 14th Amendment in the context of Supreme Court case of Wong Kim Ark, these are proper birthright citizens of the United States. because they're born as citizens, albeit naturalized citizens, or they were born to green card holders, which Wong Kim Ark says gains them birthright citizenship. So this would be a change from even that status quo. So
Oh, so you not talking about black people. You talking about individuals since the Wong Kim Art case, but primarily um, since the Immigration Act in 1965. See, you would take it personal as a black person to say, oh, they talking about African Americans. But you got to realize something. We not African Americans. We have a distinction called black in this country. They want to get back at the Immigration Act in 1965. Like I said, I've always considered to be the worst thing that I don't want to say the worst thing that happened to this country, but it was very bad in terms of allowing allowing black people to be seen as a brother in the making in this country. And it was to destroy to distort not only the merits of what we've done for this country, but it was to distort and stop the progress of the possibilities of what we can do. So here we are, you trying to get everybody back out of this country that came under this act, the Immigration Act of 1965, and the Art case, which everybody considers nowadays to be bad law because it included immigrants into the process of being subject to the jurisdiction when under the 14th Amendment, what you had was you only people that were subject to the jurisdiction were primarily white people and black people. So now here you are, you trying to fix the wrongs of what you have done to the country because here you are, you're saying, you know what, we need to allow the black people, after you done so much wrong to the community, to actually take part in the development, in the come up, in the growth. And we actually need to realize that they are our brothers in this nation.
how do those kids, they're born to naturalized citizens or they're born to green card holders on U.S. soil, how do they lose their own citizenship? Well, if both parents end up denaturalized, then it's like fruit of the poisonous tree. There was no legitimate citizenship prior to them anyway. Or the individual resides outside the United States for a continuous period exceeding 4 years. That would be the birth tourism industry, right? Or is eligible for or possesses the citizenship of a foreign state. Well, that alone would exclude almost everybody because all these people are eligible for citizenship in these foreign nations, the nations of their parents' citizenship. If they are children of illegal aliens, any individual born in the U.S. to one or more parents who were unlawfully present in the U.S. at the time of birth shall be deemed never to have acquired U.S. citizenship at birth. That's simply the proper reading of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment and under Wong Kim Ark. Wong Kim Ark did not say the children of illegals born on American soil get birthright citizenship. And they'll be subject to denaturalization proceedings under the section. Unlawfully present means present in the U.S. without having been properly admitted for immigration purposes. A child shall not be denaturalized if one of their parents was a lawful citizen or national of the United States at the time of his or her birth. So you only need one true citizen American parent. Children of individuals paroled into the U.S. are not recognized as American citizens. This was one of Biden's tricks, right?
Biden, horrible. He was horrible. This horrible. I don't know what the Democrats thought with regards to this whole immigration issue, how they was going to be so radical against the citizenry of this country and standing up for immigration to the point to where it's almost dividing the country. And this goes back. See, one thing you got to really recognize with regards to the 14th Amendment is black people didn't have a state. And what I mean by a state, we didn't have a state of nationality. Like I said, if you were to have deported or remigrated black people back to into Africa at that point. Even though back at that point we were called African Americans, now we have gotten a heightened distinction of not being African Americans but being black people. But if you were have attempted to do something like that, what you would have had was you would have had a point to where you didn't know where people true state was or nationality was because I mean how many of United States how many United States can we fit into Africa? So because of that, you couldn't say that we gonna send them back to Africa because you don't know where they came from. And when I'm talking about the slave people, I mean the people who were free from slavery after the Civil War. And not only that, see, they didn't necessarily want us to be a part of the workforce in this country, after slavery. They wanted this country to primarily be for whites, and I'm talking about Republicans, on this side. So they wasn't anti us more than they were anti allowing us to be a part of the workforce and for them to actually gain that successful employment in this country. What they wanted to see was they wanted us out so that they could have the possibilities of industrializing the West uh, with more European labor. However, they realized that they can do that. And that's not to say everybody wanted that out of the North at that point. However, once they realized that they couldn't do that, it was like, all right, well then we got to give them citizenship. We got to let them stay because they don't have a statehood nowhere else but here. So, and this is where the art case kind of messes it up because even though these individuals had a legal permanent status here in this country, that necessarily didn't mean that they didn't have a statehood nowhere else to go. Black people, you have got to recognize that this is your country. You belong here. And to the point that they're trying to go this far on taking back some of the mistakes that they feel that they have done with regards to allowing so much diversity in this country. I can't say if it was needed or if it wasn't needed. Um, it was needed to die down on white supremacy and all that. But I've always felt like if you would have bridged the gap between the black and the white, if you would have put just as much effort into that and allow our merit to speak for itself, you wouldn't have the problem that you would have today. First and foremost, America would be that much more of a better country because the merits that we were fighting for, the character that your ancestors had, that comes out of your lineage from this country is so strong. It's kind of like impossible to beat. We were thriving so much so that we were starting to do better than white America. However, all in all, every time we try to come up, they wanted to knock us down. So this don't pertain to you, Black America. This pertains to them fixing something that they started and not allowing you, Black America, to really integrate into this country.
You'd arrive at the border, you don't have permission for legal entry. He'd say, all right, well, you can't really enter legally, but we're going to let you enter illegally and parole you. And then, address the legal issue later. Children of born on American soil to paroled people would not get the benefit of American citizenship. What about individuals aiding and abetting illegal aliens? Any individual of foreign birth or holding dual nationality who's married to, cohabiting with, or otherwise abetting the unlawful residence of an alien unlawfully present in the U.S. may have their naturalization and citizenship revoked. Why don't they say shall? Shall and may are not the same things in legislative language. It should read shall have their naturalization and citizenship revoked. Departure procedures for denaturalized citizens. They would get 180 days to get the hell out of the country. Upon request, the Secretary of Homeland Security will arrange for air transportation. So they can't say, I'd like to leave, but I don't have the money. We'll get a flight for a bunch of you and put you on it. An individual departing under this provision may get up to $1,000 cash money, I guess, assist with relocation, but they only get the money with verification of departure. You got to get out. A creation of citizenship inquiry officers. That's interesting. There are established within the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Service 25,000 positions for citizenship inquiry officers responsible for investigating cases for denaturalization and subsequently denaturalizing any person found to be in violation of this or any other law. Citizenship inquiry officers shall have the authority to conduct investigations into eligibility of naturalized citizens for continued citizenship, issue notices of revocation. You know what this reminds me of? This whole notion reminds me of the movie Blade Runner, doesn't it? These would be like the lead character in Blade Runner. They get to go out and find these people and determine whether or not they're subject to denaturalization and deportation. They can conduct investigations into eligibility for whether they are entitled to continued citizenship, issue notices of revocation of citizenship, coordinate with the Attorney General for any judicial proceedings, authorized to appropriate such sums as may be necessary to carry out this subsection. That sounds like a bottomless pot of money for denaturalizing these aliens. The appeals process. So this is important because this sets forth, I expect it sets forth that the appeal is only to the immigration courts. It's not to the unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior federal district trial courts. An individual subject to revocation under the section may appeal to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. Failed appeals can be referred to the Executive Office for Immigration Review.
All right, I'm gonna stop it right there because it's time to really get into this issue um, of what this bill really is stating to you, right? What this bill will be stating to you is black people, like, it's really speaking to you about, it's really kind of like an apology letter. It's really like an apology letter that we recognize your importance in this country. We recognize that you are the brother in the making of this country. And we want to give you, after all this time, after all of what we put you through, we now understand that it's it's us. It's we the people. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you look at the Constitution, like I said, man, you don't see nothing but a white man and a black man history, or a white woman and a black woman history. You know what I'm saying? So what I see with regards to this bill, I see a big apology letter. But black people, I want you to recognize something as well. Um, Take care of your home. Like, you don't have nowhere else to go. This is your house that you have got to take care of, that you have got to want to see in order, that you have got to uh want to be kept. Because if you don't have this country, you're gonna be homeless. Because Africa, that's not your country. You never even been there. The majority of black people in today's world have never been to Africa. And we don't go by this distinction of African Americans. And it pretty much gives you that distinction because the Bill's rights to African Americans with regards to the Immigration Act of 1965. It draws a distinction. At first, you can sit there and you can get mad about what he's talking about. Like, man, these trying to man, they just won't stop. They just won't leave us alone. No, they want to leave you alone. One thing for sure that you got to recognize is they just want you to stop the violence. They want you to take care of home. You know, they want you to get back into that intelligent mindset that you had that really built every spectrum of this country. There's not a there's not a single piece of this country that you are not a part of. You are a part of every single little mechanism. What you got to realize is this: the white people built the system, but you gave the system character. And if you realize that, you realize this your home, you realize the character that you've given to this country don't belong to nobody else. So while you seeing all these um Filipino towns, little Tokyos, little Ethiopias, um, little Belize, no, they saying, hold on, we gotta draw this back because if we allow this continue to happen, we're not gonna have a country. I mean, not forget about just black people. We're going to lose our country. We're not going to have a home. And this is a system that we built, white and black America. Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Always leave your comments, man. Let me know what you're thinking about. And one thing for sure, it's a good day to be a soldier. It's all about what type of soldier you want to be.